Hi, this is part 5 of the installment www.15cities45days.com. I'm Tyler, coming to you this time from Detroit, Michigan. Right now I'm staying at Hostel Detroit, which is on the outskirts of the city center of Detroit, in an area called Corktown, which is actually where the city of Detroit originated. But first, let me tell you about Chicago. I was in Chicago over July 4th weekend, which was interesting because I was able to see how the homeless were able to access services over a holiday weekend. While a lot of the kitchens were closed that normally would have been open, there were others that at least had special July 4th activities. I went up to a place called Just Bread in northern Chicago, where the largest self-standing soup kitchen in the city of Chicago exists. At Just Bread, they had a special lunchtime meal for July 4th where people could get hot dogs and a few other barbecue items which were a little bit special for the holidays. In addition to going to Just Bread, I went downtown to a place called Grace's Place, which serves breakfast on Saturday mornings to all who are welcome. At Grace's Place, they do only serve once a week, but nearby there are other soup kitchens where people can access breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and sometimes even a shower if it's necessary. While I was in Chicago, I followed a man named Charles. I found Charles outside of Grace's Place, hanging out in the park. Charles struggles with his identification as being homeless, even though he doesn't actually have a home. He lives with his brother and sister. Instead, he believes that he's still working, that he's still moving through his regular motions of life, but most of the time he ends up sleeping on the streets. You can check out his story under the Chicago tab of this website. After Chicago, I ended up here in Detroit. Detroit has been an interesting city, to say the least. There are lots of abandoned buildings, lots of abandoned lots, and certainly a lot of poverty around. But there's also some reinvigoration and some resurgence of the city taking place. Corktown, where I'm at right now, is a good example of that. While I was in Detroit, I went to the Capuchin Soup Kitchen. It's more on the east side of Detroit, and it offers meals to men, women, and children who come in. One interesting thing about the Capuchin Soup Kitchen was that, in addition to the food, they also have art sessions, which I've only seen in one other city, which is Washington, D.C. But then in addition to the art sessions, they also have a children's center and library. At the Children's Center and Library, young, homeless, or impoverished members of the community can come in, they can read books, have books read to them, and right now there's even a day camp going on where parents can have some of that burden of having to watch their children over the summer when they're not in school alleviated by the program. You can check out more about the stories I found in Detroit about Yusuf and Joe. Joe, who I found panhandling on the corner near my hostel, and then Yusuf, who I actually encountered on the bus on my way to Capuchin, and then spoke with and stayed with for a while afterwards. You can see those under the Detroit tab of this website. Please keep following me on my adventure as I move to the West Coast for www.15cities45days.com.